Alright, so I'm back with yet another quick Pauper deck tech. So this is the latest version of my Balustrade Spy combo deck. So the Balustrade Spy decks are usually a combo deck that plays only 1 or 0 lands, but my version currently is a 6 land version, which is a little slower but more consistent, and it kind of tries to have an alternate beatdown, pure combat damage game plan. So it's not purely reliant on the combo alone. So I'll start by explaining the combo. So Balustrade Spy is 4 mana for a 2/3 creature with flying. It says when it enters the battlefield, target player reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land. Then they put all of those revealed cards into their graveyard. So with this, we can target ourselves. And if we cast Balustrade Spy while we have no lands in our library, it will automatically mill our entire deck into our graveyard. And then from there, we can do some flashback and unearth shenanigans to win the game. So in this version of the deck, we are running 6 lands, not 1. So we're running 3 snow-covered forests and 3 woodland chasm, which is a snowland. So we do have a bit of snow synergy going on. So before I get into how the deck works and what our sort of game plan is, I'll just explain the combo. So once we've cast Balustrade Spy and we've milled our entire deck, then the next step is to unearth 2 Dregscape zombies. So the zombie is 2 mana for a 2/1 with unearth for a cost of 1 black. So you can pay 1 black to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield with haste. And now that is why we are running 6 lands, because we want to have 6 mana to combo off and 3 black sources. So we need 1 black source and 3 generic to cast the Balustrade Spy. And then so that's 4 mana. And then the remaining 2 black mana is to unearth 2 of these Dregscape zombies, so that we then will have at least 3 creatures on the board. 1 Balustrade Spy, 2 Dregscape zombies. From there, we flash back Dread Return, since it will be in our graveyard, because our entire library will be in our graveyard. So Dread Return, 4 black for a sorcery, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, but its flashback cost is not mana. Its flashback cost is that you simply sacrifice 3 creatures. So we sacrifice our Spy and our 2 Dregscape zombies to flashback Dread Return, and then the creature we return from the graveyard is Lotleth Giant, 7 mana for a 6/5. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. So as you can see, we are running 31 creatures in the deck, so we're pretty creature heavy, meaning that we are guaranteed to have above 20 creatures in the graveyard, usually closer to 30, to deal a substantial amount of usually lethal damage by returning the Lotleth Giant. So that is how we win games. But now, how does the deck function? Well, the deck has kind of very simple phases of it. The first phase, step 1, is that we want to get all 6 of our lands out of our library so that the gun is loaded, so that when we play Balustrade Spy, we are guaranteed to mill the entire deck. Now, to that end, we have tons of effects that allow us to search for lands and put them either into our hand or on the battlefield. So, of course, we have 4 copies of Generous Ent and 4 copies of Troll of Khazad-dûm, which pull double duty as essentially a 1 mana way of tutoring for our lands, but also a late game threat, and their mana value is 6, which is perfect since we run 6 lands. Now we are also running 4 copies of Abundant Harvest, 1 green for a sorcery. It says choose land or non-land, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind, put that card into your hand and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So we usually use this, naming land, getting a land into our hand, but it also means that once all of the lands are out of our deck, we can just choose non-land, meaning that this will at least draw a card, it will cantrip. Unlike the other land searching effects, it's not a totally dead card once we have no lands left in the deck. Then, one of the best effects for this purpose is Land Grant, 2 mana for a sorcery. It says search your library for a forest and put it into your hand, which is why we are running 3 snow-covered forests and 3 woodland chasms, which has the subtype forest, meaning we can search for it with the Generous Ent and with the Troll of Khazad-dûm, and with the Land Grant. But now the cool thing about Land Grant is that it has an alternate cost, which says if you have no land cards in hand, you may reveal your hand instead of paying its mana cost, meaning that this is usually a 0 mana land tutoring effect. So that's great for really getting us going. So even if we have no lands in our opening hand, if we have the Land Grant, we just pay 0 and tutor for a forest. Now, in terms of more tutoring and ramp, we have 3 visits, so 2 for a sorcery, search your library for a forest, put it onto the battlefield. Nature's Law does the exact same thing. And then finally, into the north, 2 mana for search, 2 mana for a sorcery. It says search your library for a snow land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So all of our lands are forests, all of our lands are snow, meaning we can tutor for everything we need. Then for some ramp, we are running Llanowar Elves. Then we are also running 4 copies in the main board of Dimir House Guard. So it's 4 for a 2/3 with Fear. It says sacrifice a creature, regenerate it, but the main reason we are using it is because it has transmute. So you can pay 3, discard this, search your library for a card with the same mana value, which is 4, and put it into your hand. So this allows us to tutor for Balustrade Spy. So it's essentially like running 8 copies of the Spy in the deck. Then for a bit of ramp, we have 4 Llanowar Elves. Then I'm running 1 copy of Bone Shards as a bit of removal. So Bone Shards is 1 black for a sorcery. It says as an additional cost to cast it, sack a creature or discard a card, and it says destroy target creature or planeswalker. So this allows us to discard our Drakescape zombies or whatever we might draw that we kind of don't necessarily want to have in our hand because we're going to unearth it or flash it back. We can discard it to that in a pinch. Then the rest of the deck is kind of rounded out by just a few threats. So that's why this deck, it's not all in on the combo. It has alternate ways of kind of dealing damage and winning games. So we have 3 copies of Gomag Angler. We have 2 copies of Owl Bear, 5 for a 4/4 trample. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. And we also have 2 copies of Avenging Hunter, 5 for a 5/4 trample. When it enters, take the initiative. And that's cool because the first effect of taking the initiative is that you search for a basic land and put it into your hand. So this can also let us search for our basic forests and get those out of the deck if we need them. Then in the sideboard, so I've got 4 copies of Duress and Distress at the moment, just to deal with like counter spells, etc. Against graveyard decks, we're running 4 copies of Fairy Macabre. Then I also kind of want to have a bit of a transformative sideboard strategy going on, meaning that if our opponent, game 2, sides in a ton of graveyard hate, which they are highly likely to do, I would like to side out some of our cards like Dimir House Guard or some of our extra copies of Dread Return, Lotleth Giant, and instead just bring in more threats that can be hard cast in attack, like Avenging Hunter and Tangle Golem, which is pretty cool. It's 7 mana for a 5/4 with affinity for forests. Alright, so that is the deck in a nutshell. It's quite a quirky, fun deck that I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy the play style of it. I enjoy kind of trying to search for those forests out of the deck, deciding which hands to keep or not. I have a lot of fun with it, and I will continue to tweak it and work on it and try to optimize it more. And I will say kind of the main appeal of this deck for me is that it's not technically a combo deck because we only need 1 card to combo off. We just need a single copy of the Spy once all of our lands are out of our library, and then we can combo off and hopefully win. We don't need Balustrade Spy plus Songs of the Damned, for example. We just need 1 copy of the Spy. So I like that a lot. As always, if you have ideas for the deck, please let me know in the comments. If you have suggestions for cards or decks I should try out in future, let me know that too. If you enjoy the videos and would like to be kept up to date with the spicy lists I publish, please consider subscribing. That's also a great way to help the channel. Alright, I'll end it there. Happy brewing, and I will hopefully see you in the next video.